Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. You can see that swimming pool in the video right there. And what's happening here is that when it rains, this area floods really bad. So we're going to put a catch basin there and we're going to discharge it. This line is just to kind of give the guys so they know where to dig. We're going to discharge it right over here to a sump basin, and that sump pump's going to lift it up, and we're just going to pump it over into that field over there. And the reason I mentioned the swimming pool is because they want to take that down. So what we're going to do, we could actually simulate a major rainfall. Estimation of the amount of water in that pool, probably about 6,000 or 7,000 gallons of water. Way more than an average rainfall. So when we finish, we're going to open up that liner and let this thing drain so you can see just how well catch basin. There'll be easy flow across this section right here. Another catch basin, and it's going to discharge over to the sump pump. Sump pump's going to lift it up and send it out. We're going to use a Zoller M98 half horsepower pump. Let's see if it can keep up with how much water comes out of this liner when we're done. So here's the sump basin that we're going to use, and this, you can find these at Lowe's and Home Depot. This particular one, this one works pretty good. You saw the lid, but our inlet line, we've got to drill our own holes for our inlet and our outlet of this thing. So when we get ready to set the pump basin, the sump pump basin down into the hole, then we'll go ahead and cut this to the right level. That's probably the last thing that you do before you put the sump pump in, is you want to know where your inlet line comes in. It can come in up here, down here. That all depends on your excavation, how deep your French drain or your downspout drain, whatever you're bringing over to the sump basin. It all depends on how deep it is. So I've posted a couple teasers up there with the story cards about how far over from the French drain does water actually get into the system. And that's a great question, and we're going to show you an example of that over here by this wheelbarrow. We'll go ahead and flood that area, and let's just see if that water actually makes it over to the French drain. We're going to use easy flow because it works great, and it's very easy, lightweight, easy for you to transport. I swear by it, especially down here in the sand. It works great in the clay too, but here in the sandy soil, I think it's far better than gravel perforated pipe. So let's go ahead and get started. So Chuck's already started the sump hole, the base, to dig the hole for the pit. You can see it's getting down there quite deep. Need to go about another 2 feet, and then we'll be able to set that pump in. Then we'll trench the line following this little piece of pipe. That's just to give them a guide over to the sump basin. We're going to put a 12 by 12 in here. We could use a 6 by 6, but this area, if you look up, you can see it's just so many leaves here, these oaks and these pines. A lot of debris drops down here, all the time, not just seasonal, but all the time. So we want to make sure we have a large enough catch basin to hold that debris. The debris will drop down to the bottom of that basin, and then of course you just lift the lid off and take it out. That way no debris gets into your line. A lot of people ask the question, should we perforate the pit? That is a great question, and sometimes we do. In the sand, if I perforate this, it will allow more water around the area to go into the basin. But if we do perforate it, then we need to wrap that with a soil separator to keep that sand from getting in there. Most of the time now, more and more, I have simply just put these down in the ground and not perforated the pit, because it's basically the discharge to daylight. I've mentioned that many times. We've got a French drain coming from the first catch basin, and that's the inlet portion of this. The French drain here where you see the little conduit line, that's the inlet portion. We've collected that water. We're going to discharge it over to the sump basin, and from there the pump lifts it up. So do we need to perforate this? If you're putting it in the lowest point of your yard and you want to collect more water, you can. I don't think you should anymore. I think that you should keep it solid, because you're using other things to collect the water, not the basin. The basin's not designed to pick up water around the yard. It's designed to have water come in from your inlet, and then a pump lifts it up and sends it out. Okay, we set up our 12 by 12 catch basin. Remember, the reason that we're using the big catch basin here is because there's so much debris that falls year round here, from the pine needles to all the oak trees. The oaks are behind me, but they drop leaves and pine needles, year round. So we want to have something that's going to be able to collect that debris. And so this is just a bigger basin. It's a little deeper down inside. So you can see we've got about 6 inches of collection, maybe 4 inches of collection inside the basin. And yeah, there is maintenance. You have to clean it out. That's just part of anything, like a roof or the oil in your car. So we've got the basin set, and you'll notice that, can you see here, it's a little lower, it's a little lower than the natural grade. That's because we want water to drop into our basin directly. Next, we're going to hook up a piece of Easy Flow. And don't get confused. Easy Flow is a very good little pipe to use, especially for the DIY, because it's so lightweight, easy for you to transport. Don't need to have all those things, so you have gravel perforated pipe. But if you use gravel perforated pipe, that's fine. I'm just using Easy Flow on the job here because I know how well it works. And so we hook up the Easy Flow. It just slides into the adapter of the catch basin. We're going to actually put another basin right here and then continue our line. You can see the trench all the way over to the sump basin. So let's go ahead and install that, and then we'll go ahead and backfill. And all we're going to do is just pull the dirt right back on the top. It does not float up. That's just ridiculous. If you see a video where you see a piece of pipe floating in a puddle, man, that's ridiculous. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and backfill it. You need about 3 or 4 inches of soil on the top. That way you know that it's secure in the ground, and you shouldn't have any problems. I've never had a problem like that. So right here at this end of the Easy Flow, remember, it's just a couple of feet here, but we need 2 basins because there's a lot of water here. We have to make an extension. You've seen me do this. This is 6-inch SDR 35. You can find it at Lowe's. Make your measurement. Pound it down in. Remember, we want to be just below grade. Just below grade. Okay? About a ½ inch or an inch. That way the surface water drops right into the system. So we're using an external coupling. What that means is it's external. It goes around the outside. This is available all over the place. A couple bucks. Snaps on. Whoops. Snaps on to the next piece. Push it down into the bottom of that trench. Make sure you're at the bottom. And you can see our line and 2 catch basins. Now we're just going to step it down into the trench all the way over. And we've got a great system installed. Very quick, very easy. Take about a couple hours. Now we're ready to go ahead and backfill. But what we're going to do over here, I'll use just a solid piece of pipe. We've collected the water. We collected that water back there, so we can contain it. Small piece of solid pipe. We're going to drill into the sump basin. You've seen me do this many times. Okay, you can see here, this is the end of the Easy Flow. We're going to put a small piece of solid pipe right there, but you can guesstimate. You can guess. You can see that that's going to be right there. So we're going to drill a hole right into the sump basin at this level. So using your handy dandy drill, this is a 4.5 inch hole saw. You see how quick that is. Now we'll put a coupling on here, and we'll just send it right into this hole, and I'll show you how we do that. Just for this video and this example, I'm going to use a piece of ADS perforated pipe, and it's got the sock wrapped around it. I get a lot of questions. A lot of people ask, can't we just put perforated pipe with a sock around it and act as a French drain? Will it work? Well, yes, it will work, but the amount of water that is going to be grabbed from this is very, very low because there's no aggregate around it. There's no rock or in this case, there's no peanuts around it. There's no aggregate. So it has to force its way through the soil, very slow. Does it work? Yeah, it works, but would not recommend it. Here on the end of this pipe and coming into the sump basin, it's fine. It's not going to make any difference at all. So I'm just giving you that as an example. Let's go ahead and hook this piece up. I've always found it best when using corrugated pipe into the sump basin that you go ahead and slice a little 4 or 5 inch piece. Just slice it. That way you can pinch it together and stick it through your hole. It will actually expand inside there and be very secure. So you can see I made the slice, and then what we're going to do is just pinch this together and slide it right into that sump basin. Let's do that. So here's our connection. We go ahead and put our coupling on, and you can see it's a little bit long. Okay, that's fine. I pinched it together here at the end. We'll pinch it again, and we're going to slide this inside this opening. Sorry, trying to do it with one hand. Showing you, it really is easy. Yeah, it went straight in, and you can see the inside. And if I pull this, you can see that it snaps open, very tight and secure. And we're right at the center of this coupling. Let's go ahead and put this piece on. Snaps in place. Go ahead and put your fabric back over those holes. Now we're ready to backfill. So tip of the day, 2 of them. This is the fitting. This is a male, see the male threaded 1.5" adapter, and it's a slip or a glue at the other end. So is this one. Male threaded 1.5" adapter and a slip at the other end. But notice how much deeper this one is. This is a much better fitting to use than this one, because when you put the pipe in here with glue, it's going to have a whole lot more area for that glue to hold, right? So that's tip number 1. This piece is going to go right into the port of the Zoller M98. It just screws right in there. Okay, tip number 2 of the day. Here's 2 check valves. They're exactly the same. This one came from Lowe's, and that's fine. This one comes from my supplier, plumbing supply, that I buy all of my parts from. And you can see the difference. See how much bigger this one is? That's from the plumbing supply. And this one, sorry, busy. This one is from Lowe's. They're exactly the same. You see the arrows pointing upwards. They're marking which way the flow works. That means that there's a check valve in here. A little flapper opens up and down, up and down. As water is pumped up, the flapper opens up. When the water stops pumping, that flapper closes. It stops the water from coming back down the line. Very important part of this installation of any sump pump. But what's different here, if you take a look, notice from Lowe's, it's got 1.5" to 1.25". This is how they sell them. You've got to switch this around so that it becomes 1.25" to 1.5". I love how I get mine from the plumbing supply because it already comes like that. Yes, we do have to tighten these clamps up, but I don't have to do anything as far as switching these around. So next we're going to drill a 3/16 inch hole down into the pipe. This is it's called a pressure relief, and that keeps the pump from locking up, because air is also sucked up when the pit is dry. That keeps that pipe and check valve and pump safe. You need to put that in there. Okay, setting up the Zoller M98. We've got a male threaded 1.5" adapter that screws into this port. Very simple, very easy. Make that just as tight as you can. You can put a wrench on it, but don't over tighten it. Then we've got a small riser, and this riser will go into the 1.5" adapter right here. And remember, we have turn it around, we've got a pressure relief. See that little hole right there? That's fine. This riser can really be at any height. If you're discharging underground, okay, if you're going to bring the 1.5 inches out underground, I suggest that the riser end just below the bar or right at the bar, because you can see how big the check valve is. We're running out of room inside of the basin. We want to make sure if we're coming out underground, we want to have enough room to be underground, okay? So it's very close. You can find a check valve that actually sits right here, but these check valves, a lot of questions. Should I use a spring or a flapper? I really like the flapper. I think that any debris that comes up through here, because this pump's so powerful, it can lift up 1/2 inch solids. So if a piece of mulch drops in there, it could get sucked up. And the spring-loaded check valve, it closes up on that piece of mulch, but it doesn't close. It gets stuck. This one works to me a lot better. So anyways, we're gonna run this up and straight out the top of that sump basin and discharge over into that low area, which is just swampland over there. It just discharge right over there, so it doesn't really matter too much about this riser. We could actually put this check valve above ground, but I like to keep things down in the basin, much more secure. In a basement, this check valve should be above the basin because it's so much easier to service. This here, when we're in the ground, in the yard, remember we're over there? When we're in the yard, this to me should be down inside the pit because it's safe. We put the lid on it and it's safe. So we're using an all-in-one glue. In other words, this has primer built into it. We're going to go ahead and push this all the way down to the bottom of that fitting. And you'll notice I've got more leverage. I can actually kind of twist the whole thing, but that's fine. Clean off your excess glue if you want. You don't need to, but you can. And this is ready to go. Next, we're going to tighten up these no hubs, because if we do need to service the pump, we'll take that apart from the no hubs, and then we're going to continue our riser on up and out of the sump basin. So using your handy dandy Black & Decker, or whichever kind of drill you use, this is a 5/16 inch bit, and we're going to screw down on this stainless steel clamp just as tight as that drill can make it. Perfect. We've got to do that on each one of these because we want to make sure it stays secure. So we'll do that, and then we'll add a piece of pipe up here on the top. We'll set this down in the pit, add that pipe, and we're almost ready to backfill. Okay, got my riser installed. I'm going to tighten up the clamp. First, I'm going to loosen it a little bit. Now I'm going to tighten it up just as tight as this drill can make it. Perfect. Pump placement. It is kind of important, but not necessarily. I know that's contradictory, but depending on how you're going to discharge. This lid, you can see, has already got knockouts in it. I'm going to go ahead and place this over the discharge line, secure my lid. Whoops, get that on there. Secure my lid, and then I'm going to put some screws in here to help hold the lid tight. Real simple. But you can see, you've got to come out someplace. This particular job, we're coming up. I'm going to put a 90 on the top of this pipe and send it right over to the natural area over there, which is way far away from here, and let it naturally drain. There's a pond back there. All good. Okay, got the discharge line going out into the natural area. Now we just need a 90. Remember, we're using an all-in-one glue. That means that it's got primer and PVC cement inside. Just push it on there, hold it for just a second, because it does try to pop off of there because it's slippery. It tries to slide up. Only takes a second. It's solid. Let's glue the discharge. Whoops. If you get it inside, it'll be fine. Let's glue the discharge. See, it does happen to everybody. Not a problem. And we'll glue that on, set it up for just a second, and it's done. We're ready to actually plug the pump in, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and backfill, and I'm going to add one more thing to give you all these examples. This video is covering a lot of things. Remember that we're draining that pool, and this is also a low area, but the pool will act as a major rainfall, almost like a hurricane. There's so much water there. Let's see how fast it actually works. And the other thing that we're going to figure out is how much water actually moves If this is the French drain, how much water is pulled 20 feet away? Will that water actually come over? You know, it's got to flood down and come up. So when the ground is full of water, it should actually pull water from 20 feet away, very slowly, 10 feet away, a little faster, 5 feet away, perfect. Okay, we've got everything installed. You can see the sump pump cord wrapped around the discharge pipe. We'll secure that again later. We've got it all backfilled. We've got 3 different surface drains. We've got the gravel drops straight down through that gravel. We've got 2 catch basins. Showed you how to extend that catch basin in a 12 by 12. We'll clean all that up so that it's nice and pretty. Tomorrow we dump the pool. We're going to actually shoot a hole in that pool. The owner said, here, you can use my shotgun to put a hole in that pool. He wants that out of here. So we'll put a couple holes in that pool. We'll let it flood across this area, and also over here on this side we'll go ahead and let it flood over there to see if that water from this side can actually travel over to the French drain. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.